Hey guys, so today we're going to show you how we took some of our scrap wood to create us a kind of a chop saw cutting station or chop saw cutting base, if you will. We use some scrap 2x4s and 2x6s just to help give us a guide. We are typically cutting on a set of sawhorses and plywood, so we wanted something just a little bit more formal and honestly a little bit safer for the long term. And we can see here in this clip why I wanted to create this jig. But basically, when you're using a chop saw without any sort of stability or arms on it, like our 20 volt max DeWalt, it does kind of create a hazardous condition when you're needing to cut a board that's any longer than about 4 foot, to be honest. And we can see here in this clip, I'll have to actually use another block just to add some stability to just create an all-around safer cutting environment. So this jig was really necessary for us to keep going on any larger projects. And here I am just kind of double checking my measurements from my design just to make sure that everything actually is going to line up the way I hope it does between the bottom base and kind of the top cutting surface. But it took a couple of tries just to make sure the measurements were correct, and I made a couple of small edits by just about a ½ inch or so. Once we got everything cut to size, I then used our Craig pocket hole jig to basically pocket hole all of our bottom supports. These supports are going to hold the bottom two parallel 2x4s together, and we did just use a full 8-foot 2x4 for this, and then I cut these spaces around 6 or 7 inches to to kind of fit the space or the depth of our chop saw itself. And I use the pocket holes because we're going to be kind of pocket holing these in on the flat side, if you will, which will allow us a little bit more surface area when it comes time to screw in our guide or our base, which we'll see a little bit later. And then once everything had its pocket holes in, this is just us assembling those two parallel 2x4s for the base. And then of course we did use our Craig pocket hole screws just to hold everything nice and snug. And then just like the base, after I got the chop saw secured to the base itself, we moved on to the cutting surface or the counter surface. I'm not really sure what to call this, but basically the front board is the face of the 2x4, and then we did the same thing with little supports in between, and then I used a 2x6 for the back. This will allow me to kind of press a board up against that backing, and it's slightly taller than the 2x4, of course, so it basically is kind of holding that wood in place, and it also gives me an area to clamp onto to hold the wood nice and secure and safe. And then I did the same thing here where we've got these smaller pieces that will kind of bridge between the two to keep everything nice and snug and parallel. But I did space these a lot closer at like a 6 or maybe even 8 inches apart, I can't quite remember. But basically that was just for cutting the different lengths of boards, so that way there was always a solid surface to hold to. I didn't want to use plywood because I do plan on storing this outside most of the time. And then once all that was assembled, I did just put in some 2.5-inch screws through the bottom base into that top kind of counterpart or guide portion to hold everything nice and snug. And here we can kind of see everything fully assembled. So we see the flat 2x4s for the base, and then those upright guys and that 2x6 acting perfectly for a guide. And everything was perfectly even, which was great for our little battery powered chop saw by DeWalt. And this was just me testing it out to make sure everything was still flush and square once it was all assembled. If you guys like this project or want to see more, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and check us out on other social medias at Rodney and Jake. And as always, we want to give a huge shout out to all of our members. Thank you guys for your support. We'll see you guys next time.